Okay, so interestingly enough, disclaimer, I was not a very good biology student, even though it was a subject I had to take. But I wasn't a science student, so I just did a thing like that. I think coupled with the fact that my biology teacher at that time, I really was not understanding. Later, they now brought on another biology teacher, that was doing very well, but that was close to me leaving secondary school, so I didn't really have much to do with that. But I think somehow again, those lines we were crossing, they will say, it's possible for you to be AS, but then the thing can now go and join and then meet A, and then it's S, the S can go and now meet, then A can go and meet S. So there's probabilities here and there and all of that. So I'll just give a brief story of my first relationship, or the relationship I intended to settle with earlier before my life. Somehow I saw a beautiful girl, and then quite beautiful, and she formed a she was just everything I wanted, in a woman. So I met her, we started a relationship, and then we kept moving and kept going and all of that. And then somehow it started getting deeper. Of course, from the first day I saw her, I knew I was going to marry her, because I've told myself it was immediately after my service. So it means that at my secondary school, tertiary institutions, I did those tests, but I really didn't even take time to check those results properly. Somehow it was later that I even realized that all of this AS thing has been reflected in all of the results I've actually been looking up for. But at the time I was meeting up with this girl, I didn't know or realize what my genotype is. So we started a relationship, and then it started getting beautiful, and life started just getting good. Introduced her to my parents, and then all of us were quite happy that life is going to be good. I was excited I was going to get married at 27. One of my dream visions, so to say. So we kept moving, and then it got to a time that somehow, conversations around me started coming up concerning genotype and all of that. So I just asked her, my girl then, why not we run a test? And we did. Unfortunately for us, the results came out that we are both as AS. Yes. I mean, I think that was the first time the reality dawned on me, even though I was not still giving a damn about genotype. Because for me, whether I am AS, she's AS, I could still go ahead and marry. But one of the things that I was consoling myself a lot more at that time is reading books and reading stories of people that, said they are once AS and eventually got turned it to be. So I kept pushing myself towards that direction. But I think, to be very truthful to myself, at those moments, I would not say I was sure of what I was doing. I was just driven by the euphoria of love, you know how everything can be like, just going. So it was at that time that I realized, okay, I'm AS, she's also AS. It might mean that I will not get married. But I was still stubborn enough to say, I want to get married. And we kept moving, even though some things happened along the line. Not really genotype, not even genotype that stopped me from marrying her. So many things happened. Even though eventually, going forward, we also discovered, which is one other thing that I think we need to be careful with again in Nigeria. We later on discovered, truthfully, she's not even AS. She is EE. Because later on, other tests were done, as regards her genotype. It turned out to be that she's EE. So that probably means that there was a diagnosis, or how would I put the thing, maybe doctors who made that themselves, mixed up in results or something. You know? But at the time we were making those decisions and choices, the results of showing that she's AS, I am also AS. But for me, I said, I'm going to still get married to her. Yes, that's it. So I think it was at that point that I realized, yes. And that was when the conversation was stronger around. One of the things that we kept holding on to is those probability chances. That if we keep praying to God and trusting that, yes, we're AS, but eventually we might be lucky enough that it is my A that will meet with her S, and it's an S that will meet with my A, and all of that. At the end of the day, we might. In fact, I can still remember us trying to even, resolve that. We can even be lucky that it is my A that will meet her A, and all of that. Well, those things are possible. They get to happen. There are a lot of testimonies of people that said it happens to them and all of that. I also feel you need to probably work on yourself to really, really build that faith level. Like not just depending. God deals with us in independent ways, uniquely to ourselves, and so you cannot generalize how God deals with people. The unique way God deals with people, So your experience with God might not be the same with my experience with God. So you cannot really generalize all of that. But, that's not to say faith does not work. Faith is still there. And lots of people are enjoying it, and it's so beautiful. I am also a very good testimony of faith and all of that. Now, another thing that changed that gave me another understanding of how sickle cell is, and then for the fact that one needs to be very careful in choosing, is I know of a family that somehow buried, in fact, before even the burial, the stress I saw them going through, when they give birth to those children. I didn't know them. For a fact, somehow they tried all they could to live a very normal life. True. And it was just happening beautifully well, that they were living a very awesome and wonderful life. But eventually, as God will have it, or as, it will just happen. I think 2 of them, their death was in the space of very little time. One of them has even graduated. She's called to bar or something, and then she died. That is not to say that anybody cannot die. But I can remember one of our conversations with her, she saying that, her parents made some of these choices, and then somehow it's affecting them. Not for them to blame their parents, because as far as she's concerned, that might be on ignorance. But now that we are well informed, I think that was just a casual conversation me and her were having. And then she said, it is good we just choose the right thing and then do the right thing as much as we can, and all of that. And then, of course, around me, right at the present, there are quite a number of families that are really, really struggling, with their kids in and out of hospital. Even with the harsh economy in Nigeria, it doesn't really choose or select when to, attack the child and all of that. And then boom, the next thing is they're in the hospital. Tomorrow they are back, the next day they're in the hospital, And it's in and out of hospital and all of that. These guys in the hospital will not say, no, we understand it's AS or it's SS issue or it's genotype, so we can give you some subsidy or something. Babu. All they do is when you come, they charge you the way they will charge every other person. So somehow, if you're not careful, you get impoverished, you get poor by the day. You get poor by the day. Except if maybe you have, in fact, you just have a way of affecting your economy, So for me, I think that has really, really just told me to just be very careful, not just to, first of all, marry anyhow, And for a fact, I never believed, there's a narrative actually in Africa, that some of those children are winchy, and all of that. But because of how saturated information is now. You could get information now at your fingertip, and things like this, I am not sure if anybody should still act ignorant. So for that reason, I mean, even if it's just a relationship, maybe you're not even thinking of marriage. Things happen even in a relationship. You never can tell. Probably at the course of your relationship, people get to have unwanted pregnancies at the course of just an ordinary relationship. So I feel from the beginning, it might sound a bit odd. Maybe at the point of your familiarization and all of that, before you start getting deep and all. But the moment, in fact, just ask the question as early as possible. The moment you meet the woman, just ask her. It could sound very off, but it's the right thing to do, I think. For clarity's sake, I would say I've truly been acting on ignorance. Ignorance, like 101%. So even when I was making those decisions, of saying I want to still go ahead and do howsoever and whatsoever it is, for me, I was just riding on what I cannot even explain at that time. All I wanted is, I saw a girl, I liked her, and then she just married, irrespective. Honestly, I didn't do any research. When I decided to get married, I was in a way a bit informed at that time. So even when I met my wife, told her I wanted to marry her, I can still remember vividly well that one of the questions I had to ask her is her genotype. Because interestingly enough, over time I got to realize that I am AS, and for that reason, I would have to be careful for whosoever I'm going to get married to. So I didn't want to make the same mistake I did earlier of just diving into whatsoever it is, and then later on you're trying to now bring out your heads and all. So marrying my wife, sure, I had to ask her the question of what her genotype is, and she was generous enough to tell me. Even though I didn't really ask her early enough, but at the time I asked her, she laughed at me. Yeah, I can see the mirror. She laughed at me and said she didn't bother because she's AA, so she knew she could just fit into whether another AA, an AS, or an SS. So somehow probably I would say I almost made the same mistake I made earlier on, because I truly didn't ask her early enough. But then of course it still struck at some point. It still came to my mind at some point that I needed to ask that question, and then of course I did. But then thankfully enough, she was AA at that time.